Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam Wolf, and this is a reaction to the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 deep dive. I'm personally really looking forward to this game. I have the original Stalkers on PC, but now that the remastered version of those came out on console, looks like I'm going to have to grab those for my PlayStation. However, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, of course, will not be coming out on PlayStation so far as we know, because they're owned by Microsoft. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to fire this one up either on PC, which is very unlikely because my PC is not that powerful, or my Xbox Series S, which, again, not very powerful, but, pretty much equivalent, and it'll be set to work on the Series S as opposed to my PC, which may or may not work. PC works, just the game may not. We'll see. That's the best part about it. If I buy it on the Series S, I can download it on the PC and, whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so we're going to take a look. This is the deep dive into the game itself, and I've been looking forward to actually seeing this and seeing what they have to say about the game. Maybe some underlying technology that they might be using. But let's get into it. Grab yourself a drink. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. The restricted area around the Chernobyl power plant. It's always Chernobyl, isn't it? It's a creepy place. What can I say? I mean, I actually saw the TV show, and it was phenomenal. Very well done. So this is on the official Xbox channel. I'm not entirely sure if I should turn on subtitles. It should just be English, I think, but or have its own built-in. Okay, we're gonna have to turn on subtitles.
Ми сьогодні познайомимо вас з нашим світом і нашою грою трохи більше. Ми покажемо проходження одного з квестів на регіоні болота. Ми сподіваємося, що наприкінці цього відео вам стане зрозуміліше, що це за світ і як багато душі і сил ми у нього вклали.
Мене звуть Євген Петрович. На S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 я гейм-директор і керівник студії. Роблячи S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, постійно мали дивитись назад на той успіх, котрий заклали розробники першої частини, коли ми не можемо зробити менше, ніж якийсь новий рівень.
True. Notice how when I enabled the subtitles, it didn't say they were auto-generated, so that these are correct. They should be correct.
Мене звуть Дмитро Ножко, і я є лід левел арт GC Game World. І я відповідаю за те, щоб світ S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 був великий, красивий та візуально цікавий.
From my understanding, it's quite a small team, and of course they're Ukrainian, so they've had to move.
Реальна зона мене оточувала, лякала.
They had to move their operations out of Ukraine in order to continue development on the game. That's why it's taken them this long. They've had multiple delays and stuff. Now, I want to make it very clear that while I think exclusive games are just not good for the industry these days anyway, I do enjoy them because simply for the reason that when a developer is focused on one type of hardware, now in this case, of course, they're also releasing it on PC, but in terms of the consoles, when they're focused on one type of hardware, the Xbox, the PlayStation, the Nintendo Switch, the results can be very good. They can be very good. And while the Series S is not the most powerful, certainly not by a long shot, when a game is dedicated to that hardware, they can work very intimately with the hardware and make the game work as perfectly as they can make it work on that system, which is why I'm okay with this being an exclusive to Xbox as long as the version that I buy, which will be the Series S version, is actually well done. You know, like we get this level of visual fidelity, maybe at a lower resolution, which is fine. There's some upscalers these days that are fantastic, and they're going through Unreal Engine 5. And from my understanding, TSR is quite the upscaler. So if they use that, good. Please don't use FSR2. It doesn't work. It doesn't look good at all. So I'm hoping they're using TSR, at least a built-in function for Unreal Engine 5, and that we still get relatively similar visual. Great, no, this is great. Thank you for making all this noise. Relatively similar visual aesthetics on the Series S as well as the Series X.
Цього реального світу ми створили і наш світ, давши в нього свою унікальну історію. Привіт, мене звати Ігор Докотелес, я тімлід відділу синематиків, і ми працюємо...
But that's why I'm not worried about exclusives, because I have all the systems except for Nintendo, so I don't really have a problem with exclusives for the most part, unlike most people.
Його не можна порівняти, поставити поряд іншу гру, бо такої іншої гри немає.
But I don't agree with third-party exclusives. If that company does not own the developer, it should not be exclusive.
Що складається з аж 20 регіонів, і кожен регіон має свої особливості, архітектуру,
That's pretty massive.
аномалії, навіть природу.
Let's go back real quick.
Багато хто з них
20 regions, and each region has its own residence, architecture, and all this other stuff. That's huge. 20 areas. I expect this game to probably be around 30 hours. Just like the originals, it should be massive. You're basically one of very few people still in existence. Ooh, that's pretty cool. This actually makes me want to go ahead and play some Metro Exodus, because I never actually continued that game. I love the Metro series. Which, if you don't know, the Metro series was very heavily inspired by S.T.A.L.K.E.R, because it has some ex-developers work on it.
Ми переглянули купу референсів, ретельно вивчили все, реальні локації, природу зону.
Look at the reflections. That is unbelievable. Look at that.
Заснований на реальному світі, і особисто мені ця ідея та її реалізація здаються дуже оригінальними.
I'm just going to make sure that this is running at the highest resolution it can be running. Nope, it's not. I knew it too, because I'm seeing macro blocking and I'm like, wait a second.
А мене S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 в першу чергу це рольова гра. Гравець відіграє, він знаходиться в тілі людини сталкера, і гра дає можливість бути дуже різним сталкером.
Іди куди хочеш, роби що хочеш, відчувай, що хочеш, приймай свої рішення, може все, що завгодно. І оця свобода – це основа сталкеру.
Now, one thing I'm curious about personally is that the release of the original 3 S.T.A.L.K.E.R games on PS5, the remastered of them, is it's very curious, because is that kind of an indication that maybe they're thinking about bringing S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 to PlayStation? I don't know. All I know is that for right now, it's exclusive to Xbox and PC. But it's the timing of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R trilogy remaster coming out not that long ago. Kind of telling, maybe, possibly, fingers crossed. If not, Microsoft's strategy as of right now, they've even mentioned, is to be multi-platform. They have said it before. Will they have exclusives to their system? Maybe. But from the rumors that we've been hearing, the next Xbox, whatever it might be, will be the determining factor as to whether or not they continue making Xbox consoles. Or if Xbox as a brand just becomes a deployment platform, if you will. So you'll see Xbox on PlayStation, on Nintendo, instead of Xbox on Xbox or just PC. You'll be seeing it on every system, and it's just going to be a distribution platform, essentially, of their games. They'll still be making in-house games, of course, but they will be more geared towards the Game Pass side of things rather than focusing on, making consoles and making hardware, because let's face it, for the last 2 generations, Xbox has been getting their ass kicked. And it's not a bad move. It's not a bad move. And I know that sounds, a bit obvious coming from a PlayStation fan, but it's a smart move because Game Pass is the most popular way to play video games these days. One of the most. Not the most, but one of the most popular ways to play video games these days, because you pay one fee per month, you get hundreds of games at your disposal, and you can play them essentially anywhere. So it would be smart for them to be able to put their stuff out on every platform, but I don't think it's been confirmed yet. If you guys know, let me know in the comments down below if it's been confirmed whether or not S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 is coming to PlayStation, or if they've decided yet. But I think it's very telling that the remasters of the original trilogy are out on all the platforms, including the PlayStation. So hopefully, hey, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 comes to PlayStation 5. I'm not buying games lately, so if it does come to PlayStation 5 and I've already purchased it on Xbox, I might get it again. I don't know. I think what the developer's doing is quite good, so I might support them twice. We'll see.
Скіф перший потрапляє на болото. Регіон, колись населений людьми. Тут немає сталкерів, але є багато.
It's a lot of ammo. Thought that stuff was supposed to be scarce.
Це вмикати прилади, щоб отримати доступ до ключової локації. Базу чистого неба.
Okay, so they have a waypoint navigation
Це
system.
звичайна людина з дуже непростою долею. Він не є супергероєм, а він при цьому має складний характер. Не дуже любить говорити, але він не боїться діяти.
Of course, he doesn't talk very much because they want you to put yourself in his shoes. But main character's name is Skiff. Gotcha. I'm looking at the reflections. They look really good. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's possible. That looks like screen space. I saw some occluding factor there, or artifact, excuse me, occluding factor, occlusion artifacting, where when the car passed in front of the reflection, it kind of wiped away and wiped back in. So it might not be ray tracing at the moment.
За одне проходження ви не зможете подивитися весь контент та познайомитись з усім.
Probably, yeah. I mean, given how big the game is, probably not, yeah.
Трохи різну історію, трохи
Right.
різні квести, стикатися з кимось новим. Якщо ви будете потім перепроходити, ви будете опинятися на іншій стороні барикад, так сказати, і дивитися на це іншими очима.
But obviously, I'm seeing the influence for Metro for sure. And there's no doubt in my mind that, the S.T.A.L.K.E.R developer probably took some inspiration from Metro itself, because Metro has been going, whereas the original S.T.A.L.K.E.R trilogy was mid-2000s. Metro has been doing their own thing for the last decade or so.
Роботу, щоб дозволити гравцям глибше поринути в основний сюжет гри. Ми прагнули візуалізувати події та персонажів, з якими ви зможете познайомитися, і чиї цілі та бачення ситуації можуть вам відгукнутися. Зрештою, вибраний вами шлях відкриє вам зону з унікального боку.
I do wonder that, though, if the S.T.A.L.K.E.R developers took some inspiration from Metro, because Metro was doing things prior to the second game even being announced. So while Metro was building up its fan base, I'm wondering if these guys kind of looked at it and said, oh, that's a good idea, and they kind of just adopted it. Even though they were the inspiration for Metro.
Напевно, один з основних рушіїв прогресії гравця, сили гравця – це знаходження в світі нового еквіпу або зброї, або атачі до зброї, апгрейдів. І більшість цього приходить
That's gonna feed my
прогресії по
My inner Luke Goblin, man.
цікавості і дослідження світу.
So the bolt throwing thing, from my understanding, is that you use it to try and find anomalies in the environment, because you can't see the anomalies, but I'm curious as to what they are. I'm assuming they're of a paranormal nature. The animations are solid, though.
У цій зоні на гравця спочатку нападе сліпі собаки, а потім серед собаки.
A pseudo-dog.
Зіграє своїх фантомів. Їх візуально не відрізнити. Щоб перемогти, гравець має знайти справжню собаку і бити його, позбувшись його і всіх фантомів.
Alright, so yeah, it is of paranormal nature. And the paranormal creature might be something different. You know, in this case, it was a dog, or dogs. But having to go around the environment and explore and gather things, that's going to feed my need to just loot things.
To all Clear Sky personnel, we have been forced to leave the base. It is impossible to determine the exact date of our return at this time. In order to keep the base secure in the absence of scientific personnel, I have
Personnel.
reconfigured 5 emission monitoring beacons. In addition to reading higher order psi effects,
Psi?
their functionality has now been supplemented with the emission of psi radiation.
He's pronouncing the P. You know this guy doesn't speak English.
I hope that this will be enough to keep everything intact until our return.
З аудіологу ми чуємо, що якийсь каленча розповідає про те, що їх група залишила цю місцевість і залишили включеними певні маяки, котрі служили їм для того, щоб попереджувати про викиди. Вони їх налаштували всі радіацію для того, щоб захистити свої позиції. Всі радіація, вона вас вбиває. Тому це скоріше як попередження і додаткове розуміння, як це діє.
So I can see how the recording he pronounced the P, but I can see where, you know, obviously he doesn't speak English, at least I don't think that's his first language. He would think that, and he wouldn't know that it was silent, because the way that the developer just said it, he said C radiation instead of psi radiation. So that's the way they say it in their language. And so I guess he just assumed that in English it's also pronounced C, but for some reason you're pronouncing the P as well, and that of course is not true. It's psi, like, you know, psionic or, you know, whatever. But it's psi radiation. Just a little nitpick, I suppose. I'm not an English major, but I do speak the language. And in many days, not very well. But I, of course, just like with the Metro series, I'll be playing this in Russian, because it just sounds better to me. And probably is better, to be honest. I've heard some accounts of people saying that the English in this is not very good, just kind of like the Metro series. The Metro series English acting is horrible.
Тут мешкають тушкани. В даному випадку було б доречно кинути в них гранату і після цього розібратися вже пістолетом з тим, хто залишився.
Dude, I would have loved to see that explosion and what it looked like. It would have been nice to actually see it. Oh well. I mean, did he even get any of them with the grenade? Like, he just roughly saw them.
Стежити за станом скіфа. Він може бути голодним, він може хотіти спати, як справжня людина. Кожна така міні-проблема, вона знижує його ефективність. Тому треба завжди з цим стежити.
I was talking to Dmitry yesterday, and you know, we were talking about how Ukrainians speak Russian, and you know, of course, Russians speak Russian. And he says that it's kind of an odd Russian that the Ukrainians speak, like they've mashed letters together, and it just sounds like. And I'm like, basically, so like Southern Americans, you know, they just mash things together, and it all just kind of fits together, or they cut letters out to shorten words and stuff like that.
Наприклад, цей церковний льох. Тут не можна було побувати оригінальної. Всередині лігва тушканів, а також зачинені двері. Треба просто літи довго через щілину в стіні. І тоді ми потрапляємо в кімнату, де нас чекає нагорода.
I don't mind little puzzles like that myself. Like, obviously, it's not a very difficult thing to figure out if you take a look around and stuff, but I don't mind stuff like that. I think it's kind of nifty. Division 2 has a few of those where you have to kind of figure out where you need to stand in order to shoot the lock on the other side of the door, and it's a little bit of a brain teaser depending on the environment, but, you know, they shouldn't be too difficult, and that doesn't look very difficult, which is good. So, okay, so this is cool. Hold on. I haven't seen the inventory system yet. This is clean. This is like really clean. You can carry 2 primaries and a secondary. You got your Geiger counter, or I don't know, psionic counter, something like, you know, maybe spiritual counter. I don't know. You got your quick access, and then you got your overall backpack. The detail on just the images alone is really nice. I'm not gonna lie, like that's pretty nice. I like the layout of this. This is very, very clean. I love it. It'll be interesting to see how it works on console. Ooh, that actually looks good visually. I wouldn't eat it, but like it looks good. The only other, there's very few games these days that know how to actually like, ooh, got a sawed-off shotgun, that do food rendering well. First time I saw it was one that was really good was Final Fantasy 15.
Напевно, одна з найважливіших задач для відтворення цього світу і для відчуття справжності його це штучний інтелект, котрий поділяється, напевно, на 2 категорії. І це один напрямок штучного інтелекту, це мирна поведінка. Інший напрямок – це поведінка, мотивована наявністю ворога та загрози для себе. Ми штучний інтелект не підказуємо, де знаходиться гравець. Тобто якщо він його побачив, він знає, якщо гравець сховався, інтелект починає будувати гіпотези, де знаходиться гравець. Він не знає, куди він пішов, але він починає робити гіпотези, де він може бути, і з плином часу він ці гіпотези перераховує і починає шукати гравця.
That's interesting. I don't know of any other game that has that kind of AI built into it, where the AI is guessing rather than just knowing where the player is. Was that a G36C? No. Maybe. 35 weapons. 35 weapons. I think that was more than, well, it might even still be more than Battlefield 2042 now. But 35 weapons? That's more than most first-person shooters that are like multiplayer these days. That's insane.
Великий потенціал для різноманіття, тому що одна і та сама зброя з різними апгрейдами або атачами починає відчуватись інакше.
Is it like a night vision? Thermal?
Річ у тим, що не все аномалії зони небезпечні. Деякі можуть навіть допомогти. Подушку можна використати для того, щоб м'яко приземлитися і не тримати шкоди при падінні.
Okay, so you can jump from a tower.
Робити гру, яка настільки у багатьох аспектів про свободу, це дуже важко технічно, це дуже важко взагалі по часу, тому що свобода – це означає, що кількість варіантів, якими піде гравець, що він буде робити, вона росте в геометричній прогресії. Це просто невмовна кількість всього. А що, якщо він буде робити
Right.
А що, якщо він потім зробить оце? А що, якщо він вб'є оцього? Вона сягає десятків тисяч варіантів. І кожен з цих варіантів ти повинен намагатися покрити і зрозуміти, а який досвід ти даш своєму гравцю.
This is where I think AI will come into play in a huge way, just simply because of the fact that you can give the AI that kind of work to kind of just make stuff up on the fly and understand what the player's doing and adjust on the fly. But what she said there, is something I've heard so many times over the years, is the fact that for developers to really think about every little scenario, every little thought that the player might have in their head to do certain things in the game that may trigger one event or another, to think of all the scenarios is probably almost physically impossible for them to think about, because people are, everybody's different. People can think of ways that maybe the developer didn't. They probably thought of 10,000 scenarios and they accommodated for those 10,000 scenarios, but it's that 10,001st scenario that they didn't think of that somebody else might. So it's really, like she said, it's very difficult to come up with the way to program a game to do, to react to the player the way that you would think it would react in real life. And I think that's where AI can really become very handy for these developers. And I hope that in the future we do see more AI being used in game development, because it could really open up the door to entire open worlds similar to this one, where the environment reacts to you on the fly without having to be programmed into the game. And it just adjusts things in accordance to what you do. It'd be a phenomenal thing to see. There's only so much that developers can do and think of. Rain hissing. I didn't know rain hissed. It looks like... Okay, so you have a weight limit.
Давно залишив снайперську гвинтівку. Можливо, це був хтось з чистого неба. Тепер, підібравши її, у нас є можливість ефективніше пройти наступну локацію.
Which, to be fair, I'm not gonna lie, I actually prefer weight limit as opposed to physical slot limit. Because you can actually, it's a little bit easier to manage weight limit compared to slots, in my opinion. Well, each method has its own... Right, each method has its own limitations and advantages. With the slot limitation, obviously you can physically see how many slots you have, whereas with the weight limitation, you have to look at the weight of every item you have and kind of do a little bit of math. But I think at least with the weight limit, you can be a little bit more accurate with, what you can take with you and what you can't. And I personally prefer a weight limit, because then it makes you kind of play a little bit smarter. Like, okay, I know that you get used to the things that weigh a certain weight. And you can make decisions based on that. You see some ammo, it doesn't weigh anything or weighs very little, so you can pick up the ammo and have plenty to go on for the future engagements. Shotgun's the best thing for zombies.
Бачимо на горизонті насосну станцію. Ще одна знайома нам з попередніх серій локація.
So he says it's a location that we know from the previous games. Obviously, I haven't played the previous games yet, but...
І бачимо, що вся станція кишить зомбарям. В даному випадку нам дуже в нагоді. Зброя з гарною оптикою.
But I'm wondering if this has...
Тож нам треба як можна скоріше добігти до контролера і кінчити з ним.
I wonder if this has any kind of attachment to the previous games. Because I can't remember if they mentioned or not. If you know, let me know. Dude, I don't know who's playing this game, but good lord, man, get your shot on, would you? Oh my god. He's not even using a controller from what I can tell.
У другому угрупування іноді можуть змінити свого голову, іноді вони можуть розколотися, іноді вони можуть робити щось, що буде здаватися гравцю, то це взагалі не відповідає їх ідеології, як і в реальному житті, де люди, навіть коли ідеологічно здаються один одному дуже близькими, потім виявляється, що є якісь моменти, які їх повністю розділяють на якісь там нові угрупування.
В оригінальній трилогії було приділено небагато уваги побуту людей у зоні, тому ми це реалізували в другій частині гри. І тепер кожна з угрупувань є певна особливість при облаштуванні свого постійного притулку. Наприклад, вільні сталкери вважають за краще навіть у своїх постійних ударах залишатися на самоті або в великих групах. Долг так само прихильний до військової дисципліни і порадку, але найскравішим, мабуть, є колись населені таборі монолиту. Особливо страшно вони виглядають у таких містах, як дитячий садок або школа. Ось контраст дитячих ліжечок, іграшок та безголовних тіл поруч виглядає вкрай моторошно.
That's interesting.
Є змога дізнатися історії цих людей, взаємодіяти так, як би взаємодіяли з ними реальний сталкер.
So very interesting. Each faction has its very distinct look, which is good. I mean, I say that's interesting. It's not the first game to do it, obviously, but the fact that they surround each faction not only with what they wear, but how they build up their bases is very distinct. So when you see a building in the distance and you see certain features of the faction of the Duty or the Monoliths or the Loners, you'll know who's out there and like what you're going to be dealing with, like how many guys am I going to have to deal with, or you know, whatever, what kind of weapons are they using.
У друге, у третє, у четверте, ігноруючи сюжет, просто вивчаючи цей світ.
I mean, 20 regions is a lot to explore.
What have I done wrong? What have you abandoned me? Was I not your voice?
Yeah, the English voice acting sounds a little bit better in this than in Metro,
Why must I wander in the dark?
but I'm still going to play it in Russian.
Brothers. No purpose. Answer me! Forgive me. I know I must not doubt. How can I know your will if I cannot hear you? Show me the way. Let me know I am not alone.
So I'm going to go back real quick and take a look at this. Here's the thing. In this situation, he's got a max carry weight of 80. He's at 46 right now, so he's just over half. And that's carrying 4 main weapons and a secondary plus a bunch of ammo. 4 main weapons and 2 secondaries. I don't know if that sawed-off shotgun is considered a primary or secondary, but I would assume, given its size, maybe a secondary to replace the pistol if you want. In my situation, see, this is why I take simplicity over everything. Personally, I would take a weapon that is medium to long range, so an assault rifle. So that G36 right there, I'd probably take that over the what I'm assuming is the equivalent to the M.T.A.R. or is the M.T.A.R. And then I would take the shotgun for close quarters. I'm sure that the pistol or the sawed-off shotgun don't weigh as much, so keeping those both at hand is probably not a bad idea. But since you already have a shotgun, the pistol's probably the smarter move here. And then I would just dump the sniper and the M.T.A.R. That would save me probably a ton of weight. Now, I don't know if it tells you the weight when you hover over the item, but, you know, if it does, then that's a lot easier to kind of decide, okay, what do I want to keep? Doesn't seem to. He might be using a controller, to be honest. I thought he was using a mouse and keyboard, but actually it looks like he's either playing on PC with a controller or on Xbox Series X. No, he is playing with a controller. I'm an idiot. I didn't even pay attention. That's why his shots are bad. That's really surprising to actually see them showcasing console over PC. So that's my bad. Obviously, it's on a controller. Whether it's on, if this is Series X gameplay, very impressive. Not gonna lie, very impressive. because it visually looks very good. It's running very smoothly.
Значно простішою, щоб гравцю було комфортно, тому що, як на нас, це вбиває відчуття
Good.
справжнього.
Don't make it easy.
Якщо
Make it
гравець має
challenging
шанси
if you
на
want to.
помилки, він не помирає, він має регенерацію хітпоінтів. Ні, тоді це не сталкер.
I would agree. Stalker is a hardcore
Ця
FPS.
постійна динаміка і неочікуваність, вона, як на мене, створює саме цей цікавий досвід, котрий після закінчення бою, коли починається якийсь момент затища, пережити і відчути ці кайфові моменти, котрі в тебе були.
It looks like you have unlimited
І
bolts
рішення,
to throw.
котрі ти мав швидко прийняти, щоб вижити в цій ситуації.
Now, I noticed something around the gun. There's a bit of a... Oops. Keep forgetting. It's different on this. There's a bit of a haloing effect. I don't know if I can catch it here. Sort of. You can sort of see it here in this screenshot. There seems to be a bit of a haloing effect around the shotgun in motion. So that might be anti-aliasing artifacting. It could be the upscaling artifacting that they might be using, depending on the upscaler that they decided to go with. But unless you're looking for it, I guess it's not very noticeable. It could be the video itself. I don't know. I have it at 4K, so it should be best quality possible. And I'm still seeing a lot of macro blocking, but that's YouTube for you. And that's the grass. Let's be honest. There's a lot of shrubbery around, a lot of grass, so it's definitely going to it's going to really cause a lot of macro blocking for the encoder. Even if it's at 4K, it's not going to be very clean. It's just a lot to deal with for the encoder. Okay, I think so those are the stim the medical pens. So obviously the bolts are there to try and avoid the anomalies. I'm not entirely sure what the wind anomaly is doing,
Колись була
or would do to you, I should say.
Свинка. 7 зон мають передісторію. Лось – це колишня домашня свиня.
Ah.
З собаками проводили експерименти.
Ooh, that's what it would do. Okay, there you go. That answered my question.
Так само намагається влаштувати свого побут, як людина.
I love how I asked that question and it answered it immediately. Very cool, though. You can use the anomalies to your advantage if you know where they are. That's some pretty top-tier strategic gameplay right there.
His name, Strider, is unknown to me, but he is one of ours. You are the one who sent him to me. I know it. He said our brothers are scattered all over the zone, lost. No memory of themselves.
Yeah, see, even at 4K, it's breaking up the image because of all the grass. But I still think that haloing around the gun, around the fingers, that's definitely got to be something with the upscaler or the
Remain silent. We shall find the reason and set
anti-aliasing method.
This I swear.
Тобто в сталкері ти не качаєш свій рівень
That's good.
левел 1, 10, 15, 80, 100. Ти прогресуєш тим, що ти починаєш краще знати цей світ, швидше реагувати. Як на мене, це саме те, що гравці очікують від сталкера.
I think so.
Ну, мені здається, нам вдалося досягти балансу, коли для гравця гра одночасно і челенджева, і одночасно залишає великий простір для винагороди.
That's the thing. Like, people need to realize that not every game these days has to be a modern game trope of the industry. It doesn't have to have a leveling system, a progression system, or anything like that. This game seems like it's going back to the old days of games used to just be fun. They used to just be games. You would play them over and over and over again because they were good. So hopefully this game turns out to be what people expected, and maybe more so, and they play it for the fun of it, not because they got to get to the next level or something like that. I love a good progression system. I'm a huge fan of those things because it gives me something to do in the game other than just playing the game, but it does take away from experiencing the game, and sometimes in a really bad way. But I'm glad to see that they didn't do that. They were like, you know what, we're making our
Це
game.
один з найскладніших в історії українського геймдеву, як мінімум, проєктів, і найскладніший для нас. Ще на початку це було дуже амбіційно. Але з часом
It sounded Italian, that's funny.
ставало ще амбіційніше, і при цьому складніше, і при цьому ще цікавіше робити.
I like the fact that I have not heard that they're using any procedural generation. I think every area and everything in this game is hand placed and hand designed, which is great. I think we need more of that. Procedural generation can be very useful, but it depends on the project, and I don't think this is a project that would need it. 20 regions can easily be designed by a nice handful of people. All right, now we're getting into the story.
Працюючи над катсценами для гри S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, нашою головною метою було розширити ігровий досвід та додати більше деталей у ключових моментах основного сюжету. У процесі роботи над катсценами ми пройшли всі ключові етапи розробки. Розкадрування, схеми та аніматики стали важливим інструментом, що дозволяли ітеративно опрацьовувати сценарії та ретельно готуватися до зйомок з використанням технологій захоплення рухів. Завдяки наявності власної студії захоплення рухів, аніматори та режисери могли безперервно вдосконалювати роботу, досягаючи гарних результатів.
Decided to play soldier with me.
I like the fact that even small studios now, I mean, these guys, I can't remember if these are the original developers of the Stalker franchise, but you know, you go back to the original Stalkers, there's, as far as I know, there's no cutscenes, there's no motion capture animation or anything like that, or these days performance capture. There was none of that. It was still mid to late 2000s. There were some big budget studios that had access to that stuff, especially it wasn't performance capture back then, it was motion capture. But studios as small as the guys making Stalker, I don't think had any access to that. So I'm sure that this was a huge jump in quality for them to be able to just do performance capture and get the animations that they want by capturing real people.
But we can't quite seem to get all the pieces to fit.
The facial animations are pretty awesome.
Він сповнювався звуками, музикою та голосами героїв, створюючи відчуття справжнього життя. Можна повністю сказати, що для гри S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 ми розробили
3 hours of cutscenes.
Це більше 43 одиниць. Це майже як велике кіно всередині великої гри.
I will say this. 3 hours of cutscenes in a game that's probably going to be roughly 30, 40 hours maybe. 40 is ambitious. But 30 hours, I'm talking if you play the story. Obviously, people are going to put way more than that into this game. But 3 hours of cutscenes, not bad. You know, for an open world game, that's pretty good. It gets most of the story across and stuff like that. I don't think anybody could ever touch Kojima when it comes to telling a story through cutscenes in video games, but...
Концептуальна робота над локаціями, пристроями та персонажами допомогла глибше зрозуміти ігрове середовище та створити первинні версії локацій на ранніх стадіях. Ми провели велику роботу, щоб дозволити гравцям глибше поринути в основний сюжет гри. Ми прагнули візуалізувати події та персонажів, з якими ви зможете познайомитися, і чиї цілі та бачення ситуації можуть вам відгукнутися. Зрештою, вибраний вами шлях відкриє вам зону з унікального боку.
Ви тільки погляньте на це.
It must be really hard to actually like.
Однією з найважливіших функцій катсцен є ретельне опрацювання та деталізація ігрових персонажів. Через катсцени гравці поступово знайомляться з ключовими персонажами, пізнаючи їхні мотиви та розуміючи, як минуле впливає на їхні дії у сьогоденні. Цей процес значно впливає на сприйняття гравцем світу, гри та зони в цілому, формуючи його рішення та визнаючи наслідки його виборів.
It must be really difficult to actually do performance capture with that rig on your head and not accidentally bump your co-workers in the face. But they probably only use it when they know that they're going to be doing some talking as opposed to action, which they probably wouldn't wear those. But I could be wrong.
Частиною ігрового світу, персонажами, тим, як персонажі звучать, які у них голоси в українській локалізації, в англійській локалізації, те, як звучить музика, те, як звучить саунд кожної секунди, кожної катсцени, те, як рухаються персонажі, те, як рухається у них обличчя, як все це працює загалом. Це робота всієї команди, всієї студії. І при цьому всьому, я думаю, що ми витратили на це все майже 3 роки інтенсивної роботи. Тобто ми знаходимося зараз біля тої точки, коли все це піде у відкритий світ, у відкрите життя. І дуже хочеться побачити, як люди сприймуть це все.
3 years. Now, I don't believe 3 years is the total time that they've taken to develop. I think it's been a lot longer than that. But I think for the large majority of the polishing, it's been about 3 years, which is a lot of time to be taking to ensure that the quality of your game is of this caliber. And it's good to see that these guys are taking their time.
Напевно, найбільше досягнення для мене в Сталкері це не сама гра, а той шлях, котрий пройшла ця розробка, котра пройшла ця гра, для того, щоб вона вийшла. І та кількість людей, котрі вклали частинку себе, своєї творчості в створення цього світу.
Мене захоплює те, як він не перестає дивувати мене знову і знову, навіть через роки розробки. Це дуже схоже на занурення під воду. Перші метри сонячно і гарно, не така вже зона і страшна, але чим далі ми занурюємось, тим стає холодніше і темніше. Ми починаємо чути, як важко і голосно б'ється наше серце. Цей спуск не завершується. В якийсь момент ми зрозуміємо, що шляху назад більше немає. Ми занадто глибоко. Єдине, що залишається, продовжувати цей дайв у холод і темряву під неймовірним тиском. Дуже мало шансів вижити.
I just looked it up. It is the same developer, GSC World, or GSC Game World, or whatever.
Бо нічого цього не траплялося.
So these are the same guys who worked on the original trilogy. So they know how they want the story to progress and how the environment's supposed to work into the previous games, I think.
Неможливо зробити щось подібне, як цей світ, і цей сюжет, і ця гра, коли ти один, чи коли тебе мало, чи вас мало. Тільки командна робота і кооперація справжніх талантів, спеціалістів у своїх напрямках, тільки за таких умов, через череду певних поразок і перемог, можливо прийти до моменту, коли щось нове, таке велике, величне і масштабне справді створюється і починає своє життя. Я справді пишаюся бути саме частиною цього.
S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 буде для гравців і для нас в будь-якому випадку унікальною грою, тому що її робить українська компанія, і історія, яку ми розповідаємо, і зі сторони сюжету, зі сторони способу подачі історії, і зі сторони дизайну ігрового процесу, це буде зовсім інша історія, бо вона розказана під іншим кутом.
Це можливість більше заінтересувати, познайомити, зацікавити людей з усім тим, що є для нас рідним.
Okay, so they said it's a new story, so I don't think it has anything to do with the previous trilogy.
Щоб ви могли себе уявити в ньому, щоб ви могли знайти себе в ньому, щоб ви отримували задоволення від процесу, не думаючи про кінцевий результат. І навіть якщо це буде просто задоволення від класного шутеру від першого лиця, ми сподіваємося, що ви його запам'ятаєте.
Yeah, the original reveal trailer of gameplay
Що ми робимо, це
was not really well received because people felt as though it was a huge graphical downgrade, but based on what I saw
цієї гри
here,
і
it looks like they
працювати
fixed it.
з цими людьми, цією командою. І це була найкраща подорож по розробці за моє життя.
November 20th this year. November 20th this year. This is when you can expect it on Xbox S and X, PC, and of course Game Pass. I do not have Xbox Live or Game Pass, so I'll probably just be purchasing it outright, which is fine with me because I'd rather have access to it without having to have Xbox Live. But I'm very excited. That was excellent. It's so cool to see these developer deep dives into the back end of, you know, the game that they've been developing for years at this point. I don't know the full development cycle. I'm fairly certain it's been longer than 3 years, but it's pretty cool to see where they were and where they are now, having to deal with the war in Ukraine. They had to move. That's why the game was delayed, I think, the first time. And then countless times after that, it was because, well, like I said, the initial gameplay reveal wasn't well received because people noticed that it was a bit rough around the edges, to say the least, with the graphics. But it looks like they might have actually kind of fixed that part. So I think what I saw here was, it's looking good, man. I'm really excited. I really think I should play through the original trilogy, and I want to. I just got to grab it on the PlayStation. I do have it on PC, and there's no doubt in my mind I'd be able to run it on this PC, but I like consoles, so, you know, I'm probably going to get it on the PlayStation and play through it. But it seems as though to me it's not a continuation of the original trilogy. They said it's a new story, so I hope that it's something that those of us who haven't played the original trilogy can just jump in and just get a whole feeling for what S.T.A.L.K.E.R really is. And you know what? I'm glad there's no progression system. I'm glad that there's no difficulty choice. They might have easy, medium, hard, but there might be slight differences between those levels. If they don't, then I think I'd prefer that. Let's get the true S.T.A.L.K.E.R experience with this one, because I think we need more games like this where it's just a game rather than something you come back to so you can level up and unlock this, and this. It's just, we have too much of that already. Let's get back to making games. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and please join me again in the next one where we'll take a look at another game trailer or mismatch of all of them. I'm actually thinking of doing we're going to do the THQ Nordic showcase at one point. You know what? I think the next one we'll take a look at the Black State trailer. That game looks insane graphic-wise. So it'll be interesting to see if any more information can be learned from that. But until then, I'm Adam Wolf. This is S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chernobyl. And I'll see you guys later.